All right. So my son-in-law was kind enough to lend me, for an extended period of time, his oxyacetylene torch with a rosebud torch or attachment. And he was showing me how to use it, and we melted some stuff, and boy, it gets super hot and melts the stuff pretty quickly. And that's part of what I've been really struggling with, is to be able to melt the material that I have. And so I still have the furnace. I have my cell, my hydrogen cell, which I've shown you in previous videos, and it's sat all winter, and I didn't flush it out. I've learned that I need to do this. And so therefore all the water evaporated but left the electrolyte behind. And then I put in more electrolyte this spring and attempted to run it. But I think I've explained before that the more electrolyte you have, the more hydrogen you make, but also the more current you draw. And the problem I have is, number one, to get current to the bench, the area, the furnace area, I have to use an extension cord, and that's coming off a 15 amp breaker. So I go over 15 amps, that breaker trips, and I have no power, and that's what happens. Has happened. Last year I found that if I use my gas generator, emergency generator, that I could have a higher current value, and I think it's 20 to 30, I'm not sure, somewhere in there. It doesn't actually say on the generator, and I got it used, so I don't have any paperwork. Anyway, so last year I was able to run the cell with the generator, but this year, the spring, I was unable to, and I think that's because the concentration level was so high that it was drawing so much current it was tripping off even the generator. So I took the cell apart and I cleaned all the plates and I stacked them back up, but I have yet to assemble it. So that's something on the list to do. I have to assemble the cell and just fill it with water and see what I get from that. What kind of current flow and what kind of hydrogen, oxygen gas making. And if I don't get any, or if I get very little, then I'll add a little electrolyte, and I'll try to balance it that way and get it working to create some hydrogen oxygen, which I can then plumb into my furnace. I also need to get a good flashback arrestor. I ordered one online, and I thought I got the right size, and it came in, it was this little tiny thing. So I need to order the right size flash arrestor, put it in my system so it's safe to use, run my hydrogen oxygen into my furnace, and the idea is to first start the furnace with the propane, add the air to ramp it up, and then once it's going well, then add the hydrogen oxygen mixture, and that should ramp the temperature up even higher, and then I can melt the materials in my furnace pretty well. And also I have a bunch of cans I want to melt down into aluminum. And part of the reason I want the aluminum is for an experimental system where I will be using aluminum with lye to make hydrogen, and then I'll be able to use that just pure hydrogen to run a heater in the winter, and or plumb it into the emergency generator and run the generator on hydrogen. So these are all things I plan on doing, but especially now in the warm weather, the platinum project is #1 priority. Except when things like my son getting married come into play, and then of course that jumps to top priority. So, and all the activities that come with that, you know, cleaning the house and painting this and planning that and making this and such and such. So that's been happening a lot lately, other priorities. And so here we are. I'm trying to get up to speed with some of these things I want to do. And because it's raining, the thing to do probably next is to take the platform off, modify it with the shelf, put it back on, and maybe modify this blow-off nozzle so it covers more area. It's just a pinpoint of compressed air right now. And if I can make it so it would cover more area, that might be better. So, thought I'd catch you up. Shout out to Donald Deathridge, my #1 fan. And I'll be getting back to you with the next update.